Here we go. Thank you for having me. My talk today is about cheating death and how I've had to cheat death over and over again, using everything from diet to lifestyle, technology, and even gene therapy. So the story begins about 20 or so years ago when I'm in college and I am so violently ill that every morning I get up for 9 months straight, run to the bathroom and get sick, and nobody can figure out why. In fact, I was so ill that I used to sleep sitting up because I couldn't even lie down. And I would go see a doctor after doctor after doctor, and eventually they'd all just put me on some antibiotics and things would get worse. And in fact, things got so bad that I couldn't eat anything. I couldn't eat a piece of bread. I couldn't eat a piece of chicken. I didn't know what was going on. So this was the first time in my life I had to take things into my own hands and figure out how to solve the problem. So thankfully at this point we have the internet, and I begin researching and studying every type of diet out there that's ever existed, and eventually I learn about one called macrobiotics, and it turns out that there was a school in Austin, Texas that teaches macrobiotics. And so macrobiotics are what I call the original blueprint diet. When I talk to Brian about blueprint, I'm like, I don't know if you know this, but it's basically the same as macrobiotics, which was developed by this man who was a Japanese military doctor in the 1890s. And in the middle, you can see the standard macrobiotic meal, which they kind of consider a healing diet that you would go on if you're trying to heal from anything. So you see leafy greens, root vegetables, legumes, grains, and at the core of macrobiotics is really your gut health. And so they're obsessed with fermented foods, miso, shoyu, making your own pickles. And so I begin studying this, and for 7 years I eat this way every single day, making meals from scratch every single day. And eventually I go from someone who could eat nothing to someone who can eat anything. And in fact, if you met me after macrobiotics, you would know me as the guy with the iron gut. And so this was the first time I had to cheat death. I was going from wasting away, being unable to eat, to being able to eat anything, and life was good, but then other things happened. So in the around 2009, I'm a skinny, albeit handsome 32-year-old. I'm living in San Francisco, and I get hit by a car, and I have to crawl off to the side of the road, get on my back, pull out my phone, and call 911. And I spent most of 2009 unable to walk, unable to stand up. I lost half a kidney over here, 6 inches of intestines. I have a 12-inch incision up my belly, and things were not good. And again, I turn to the internet and figure out how I can solve this. I start learning about peptides. This is a long time ago for peptides. I start learning about peptides. I get my whole genome sequence, which was very early back then. Start learning about hormone therapy, blood work, and eventually I go from this scrawny guy to somebody that looks like this, and I go from being unable to walk or stand up straight to being able to do this. Again, I have to cheat death by taking life into my own hands, and life is good again, but things keep coming after you. And so around 2020, I'm in my 40s, I go almost completely deaf. Now this is a genetic issue, I've had it my whole life, but it gets really bad in your 40s. I have to wear 2 hearing aids, and even having them on full blast, I can barely hear what anybody is saying. In fact, if I'm not wearing the hearing aids, you could yell into my ear and I wouldn't be able to understand you. I'm probably pretty loud now, I'm a very loud person. And so again, I turn to the internet. My audiologist says, this is just a normal thing. It happens to some people. Just wear the hearing aids, you'll go deaf in 10 or 20 years, and that'll be that. But I'm not okay with that. So thank you, internet. I go to the internet, I diagnose my own problem, I take my audiology scans, I upload them to the internet, I figure out what the actual problem is, and I find a surgeon that can solve this. And so I go and I find this guy, and we do this surgery, and you can see him right here. He's holding my actual stapes, which is one of the 3 smallest bones in the human body. That's my stapes right there on the tip of his finger. And this surgery is really cool. It's done entirely with lasers. They use a laser to cut your eardrum. He uses a laser to cut the stapes out. He uses the laser to punch a little hole into the foot plate of where the stapes was, and then puts a new titanium stapes in there. And this is a type of titanium that is heat reactive. So one more time, he shoots the titanium with the laser, which causes it to wrap around the other bone in my ear and permanently place it there. And I wake up from the surgery with my ears stuffed with cotton, and I can immediately hear him as he whispers into my ear, thank you. And here I am.
Okay, good. It's a good crying.
Crying because it's really good to be able to hear again. Here's my new stapes. A couple of months later, we do the surgery in the other ear, and now I can hear. If you think, thank you very much. As a lifelong musician, this was a big deal for me, and he is like a brother to me now. And if you think all of this is bad, at the beginning of this year, I got fat for the first time in my life. And I was not okay with that. I've always, either been skinny or in good shape, and I just was not okay with this. You can actually probably see the surgery scar that I have up my belly from getting run over. And so I decide to take evasive maneuvers, start doing extreme things, and what could be more extreme than having breakfast with Balaji? So we are in Honduras. This is the day that I get follistatin gene therapy. And here you can see me getting this shot. I'm one of the first couple hundred people in the world to get this type of gene therapy. What it involves is taking plasmids, which are naked strands of DNA, genetically re-engineering those plasmids to produce whatever type of protein that you want. They then inject the plasmids into your arm, and those plasmids live there for the next year or two, creating follistatin and pumping it into my blood 24 hours a day. And so it has a bunch of benefits. This is me the morning that I got the follistatin shot. This is me a month or two later. I lose a bunch of fat. So one of the things follistatin does, it does a bunch of things, but one of the main things it does is it keeps muscle from breaking down. So you're basically just building muscle. It also reduces your epigenetic age, improves your cholesterol biomarkers. Here I start talking about this stuff on Twitter and posting my progress. You can see a bunch of improvements in my cholesterol. You can see my DEXA scan improvements, and even Jeff Bezos starts following me because this stuff is wild and wacky stuff. It was kind of crazy. This was like the day after I started posting this stuff, started getting followed by Jeff. And so what's next? Clotho gene therapy. Hopefully I'll be getting this in the next month or so. These were both invented by a company called Minicircle, which I later became an investor of. And I did this at Vitalia. You should all know Vitalia, I'm sure, from the talk earlier today. If it wasn't for these parallel societies, we could not have parallel healthcare. And I owe so much to them for creating a place where you can go and do these types of experimental therapies. So Clotho, we think it'll be able to increase your IQ 5 to 10 points. We think that it could reverse calcification of arteries, which would be world-changing. And hopefully I'll be one of the first people in the world to get this therapy. So that's my talk on cheating death. Thank you very much for having me. I just want you all to remember that if you want to cheat death, you have to take your life into your own hands. Do not go quiet into that good night. Rage against the dying of the light. May we see you all in the stars and on Mars, and may you all cheat death. Thank you very much.